everybody, and a very warm welcome back to the latest episode of Hidden Jewels of Soul and Disco. I do hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. In this week's episode, we are featuring a group who released in 1977 an absolutely obscure disco gospel record. Therefore, this week we are featuring the Howard Lemon Singers. Howard was born and raised in Detroit, and his great uncle was Berry Gordy Sr., the father of Berry Gordy, who famously founded Motown Records. When Howard was 5 years old, he started to kind of play a little bit on the piano in his grandparents' house, and his mother very much encouraged him to learn an instrument. So when he was 12 years old, he got professional piano lessons, and he learned to play a majority of instruments. His first musical footprints he left behind in the late 50s on the HOB label, where he released a couple of 45. Special one I want to point out is He's My Mighty Lord from 1959. When he finished with high school, he decided to become a professional gospel musician, and he founded the Lemon Inspirational Singers, which later became the Howard Lemon Singers. And in 1966, the group released their first album on Savoy, and this was called Use What You Have for God. In the beginning of the 70s, he signed with Stax Records, which had a pretty good run with the Alan Rance Group or the Staples Singers. And he signed with the sub-label, which was Gospel Truth. Gospel Truth ran unfortunately not very long, but produced a huge amount of very important gospel records. His first release on Gospel Truth was A Message for Today. That was in 1972, and in 1973 he released I'm Determined. It took 4 more years for yet another and the final release of the Howard Lemon Singers, and this was Seasons, and here it is in all of its glory, all of its 70s glory, and it was released on the Gospel Roots label, which was distributed by TK. The albums I've just talked about are widely available. They are not super expensive, but this one is, and I think that's very unfortunate, because I would love for everybody who loves gospel and disco to have this in their collection. It's getting more and more difficult to find, and also getting more and more expensive, because many DJs are now finding these albums, and especially this one, and start to sampling and just enjoy the album from the beginning to the end. Howard wrote and arranged every track on this album, and he also took care to have a very good backbone in the session, because he got in touch with some former Stax colleagues, and he asked Willie Hall and Lester Snell to be the backing section of the rhythm section of this album. And you can imagine there's quite some magic happening on this record. Also, I want to point out Esther Smith. She's singing lead on those tracks, and she's just unbelievably good. Here you will see a little snippet which was done by a channel which is called Gospel Diaries. I can highly recommend, if you're into gospel, to check this channel out. The guy who's doing this channel, his name is Eric, and he's doing a fantastic job. I put the link for his channel down in the description below. Let's watch that snippet.
To make a long story short, when I had gotten pregnant with my son, I had to pull back because, see, Matica set a choir rehearsal for 8 o'clock, and she walked in the door at 9.
Really?
Okay, and then we would rehearse until 12 and 1. So when I was pregnant, I'd gotten so far along, I couldn't keep up the pace. So I dropped out of the choir. I was going to drop out until I was going to have the baby, you know. And but then this time I meet Howard, Howard Lemon Singers, and so Howard, he was a real timely person. You know, if he said 8 o'clock, you better be at 8 because you know you ain't gonna be late. No, so it was easier working with his group. You know, so I worked with him, and then later on, Maddie came to me and she said, I don't know if you remember her. She said, "Girl, you need to do something on your own." You know, and I was scared because I've always had either the choir backing me up or the group. So the thought of going out on my own was terrifying to me. And so she said, "No, come on, we're gonna do something on you." You know, and that's how that first album started.
Right.
Like I said in the beginning, this was unfortunately their last album. Esther was doing many recordings for the Sound of Gospel Records label during the 80s, which I also highly recommend. And Howard, well, he retired from the music business to become an administrator for the Neighborhood Service Development Division of the city of Detroit. And after about 30 years doing this, he became a probation officer, and then he retired in 2007 and is now a musical director of a gospel choir. Unfortunately, for the other personnel on this record, there are hardly any information available. If you have them, please put them down in the comments below. So, for this week, I would highly suggest check out some tracks on YouTube. I'm pretty sure you won't be disappointed. And if you enjoyed that video, check out the link above my head. There are many more to come, and I catch you on the next one.